Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Techie Tuesdays. I'm your host S. Ravi Kumar. Techie Tuesdays is a weekly show where I answer your tech and career related queries. So if you like my answers, then please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends, family and colleagues. Now let's get started with today's questions. First question is by Neha. She is asking, what are SDLC, Software Development Lifecycle Phases and Processes? Neha, Software Development Lifecycle or SDLC is generally referred to the processes which are followed in developing any software. These processes are taught in colleges and schools and also followed in the industry in order to explain how any software is built. There are 7 main steps in SDLC processes. So let's talk about them one by one. The first one is planning. So planning is basically where the main stakeholders, the person who needs the software, they do the planning that, okay, we need some kind of software. And usually if the person who needs the software doesn't know how to develop the software, they create an RFP or request for proposal for the companies who basically develop the software. So basically RFP is created by the client, which is given to the software development companies to request for proposal that, okay, propose us the solution, that what do you need, like how can you develop our application or how can you solve this problems of ours using your software. So planning phase is usually, as I said, done by the clients. The second step is called requirement analysis. Usually requirement analysis is done by the people who are going to develop the software. So if it is a product company, so it is primarily done by the senior management of the product company. If it is a services company, then it is done by the architects or pre-sales architect and business analyst and all those people. So these are the people who do the requirement analysis, and the output of the requirement analysis are primarily the proposal, which is basically, as I said, that client gives in planning phase, clients create the RFP or request for proposal, and then in the requirement analysis phase, the developer, architect or the pre-sales people, they do the analysis of the requirement, that what all frameworks will be used, how many resources will be used and all those things, and based on that requirement analysis, they create the proposal and they give it to the client. The third phase is design. It is primarily done by the development team or the development side of the people who does the development. By development, I don't mean developers. By development, I mean the company which is responsible for the development. So whether it is a product-based company or it is a service-based company, basically the services provider company, they do the design of the system. So design involves the system design, which is basically hardware design, that how hardwares will be aligned to support this kind of software. And it can also include architectural design, that what all software pattern, design patterns, what all technologies, what all frameworks will be used in developing the application. Design also involved UI and UX design, that is user interface and user experience design, which is done by UI UX architects. So in design phase, all these designing activities are done, which is like architectural design, UI UX design and your system design. All these 3 types of designs are done in the designing phase by the architects, and the output or the deliverable from this phase is of course the design document. It can be high level design document, it can be low level design document. So design document is the deliverable from the design phase. The fourth phase is of course development. So development phase is where all the development is done. As the name suggests, in the development phase, basically developers develop the application based on the requirement, whatever is given to them. And in some companies, they also write the unit test cases. In some companies, they don't write. So it all depends on the company to company, but usually in development phase, the development of the software is done. The fifth phase is testing and integration. So basically you can say integration testing or testing. So fifth phase is basically testing, where all the system is tested. So there are many type of testings done, that is load testing, integration testing, functional testing. So these different types of testings are done by the testers. It can be done manually or it can be done in an automated way using automated testing softwares. So there are various kind of automated testing software which help in doing automated testing, and then there is manual testing is also done by the testers, who basically follow an Excel sheet and follow the procedures that okay, how the system should behave based on the user story. They write the test cases and they do the testing. The sixth step is deployment. So deployment is primarily used for web application. So if you are developing a web application, then in deployment phase your web application will be deployed to the servers, and they can be used by, or they are published on the servers and they can be used by your customers. So either the customers or the users who are going to use that software, they will be using the web application from their browsers. If it is a desktop application, then the setup will be provided to the users who are going to use it. So it would be a downloadable setup which people will install on their machines, and then they will use that software. So deployment is the phase where the final output package, or the deliverable of the deployment phase is the final output package, which is either published on a server or given to the client as a executable or as a installer, which can be installed on their machine. The seventh phase is maintenance. So when the development is complete, then we also have to do some kind of maintenance. In maintenance, generally we take new feature request or anything which is missed during our testing. So if any bug is missed during our testing, that is taken care in maintenance phase later on, because that's why we say that softwares are developed for years, and it's like based on the hardware things, based on the like environment, based on different scenarios. Maybe some requirement change, maybe some changes are needed in the software, so that thing is taken care in the maintenance phase. So these were 7 processes of software development lifecycle, or SDLC, which are followed by industry to develop software application, be it web application or be it a desktop application. The next question is from Prakhar Kumar Singh. He's asking, I have just completed my 12th and I am interested in software development. What are the basic or trendy skills I should develop in me right now? Prakhar, let me tell you one thing very clearly. Don't run behind trending skills or trending technologies. Always go for tried and tested skills and technology. So in my opinion, the only skill you should focus on should be learning and communicating. So you should know about learning new things. Whatever, pick a language, pick any programming language, be it C#, be it Python. Python is of course trending language also. So pick any programming language, learn from the basics of that language, be it C#, be it Python. Learn about these languages. Don't learn C++ or C, even though it will be taught in the curriculum. But in my opinion, those are slightly tough to like understand and all those things. It's better to learn either Python or C#. C# because I'm a supporter of C#, and Python because of course it is considered to be the easiest programming language to learn. So you can learn either of these two languages. And the second thing is communicating. So learn about how to communicate what you have learned. So learn about writing blogs, learn about creating videos, learn about you can say communicating, doing public presentations, talking in front of camera. So as I said, only 2 skills are required for you for focusing on any, you can say any job, not only software development, for any job or business. The 2 skills which are most important are of course learning and communicating that learning in an effective manner so that the other person can also understand. So pick or choose any language, but focus on learning that thing, practicing that thing as much as you can. So learning, practicing, and communicating are the three skills I would say that you should focus on, and you should learn about that. You should follow these skills. Next question is from Vishnu Nautiyal. He's asking, should I focus more on learning web technologies and frameworks or practice DS and Algo if I want to get a job as a software development in a good startup or a product company? I have 4+ years of experience in security field and want to switch to development. So for those people who don't know what is DS and Algo is like a short form used for data structures and algorithms. Now to answer your question, Vishnu, in my opinion, you should stick to security domain. So by security domain, I want to say that you should learn about implementing security, whatever you have done on or whatever you are doing since last 4 years in security. You should learn how to implement those things in an application, be it web application or desktop application. In most of the cases, security applications are desktop applications. So you should learn about how to implement those things in security applications, and you should go as a security application developer rather than a web developer, or as a like any other DS algorithm are primarily used by product based company for creating different kind of products. But you should learn about implementing security things, because you are working in security domain from last 4 years. So I think you should utilize that domain experience in getting your new software developer job. So in my opinion, you should find out the applications which you are using, look for the applications which are open source, learn the programming of that application, probably contribute to that application. Any feature if you see which is missing in that application, you can try to contribute to it. You can talk to the developers of that application. Who knows, they can give you job as a software developer in that in their company itself, or if it is an open source backed by some company, so that company can hire you as a consultant or as a consultant developer or as a consultant who can advise you on implementing that application feature. So in my opinion, you should, rather than learning about data structure algorithm or web frameworks, you should learn about how to implement security features. Maybe you can think about learning about how to implement OWASP, OWASP features in any programming language or any application. So you should focus more on security driven things rather than your DS algorithm or web frameworks, because there you will be able to use your previous 4 years of experience. Otherwise, if you just learn DS algorithm or any web framework, then of course you will be hired as a you can say front-end developer or back-end developer or full stack developer, and you will be hired as a fresher, not as an experienced person. But if you are going into software like security based software application development, your domain expertise will be utilized, and you might get slightly higher salary than a regular developer of that particular application. Next question is by Ayush. He's asking, how do I understand the code structure of any site in GitHub effectively? Ayush, I'm assuming that you know the programming language of the site or application which you are talking about. Because if you don't know the programming language, then I think that would be the first basic step to learn about any open source project, that you should know the programming language in which that open source project is developed. So to understand the code structure of any open source applications, there are two ways. The first way is to talk to the developer and ask him or her to help you out in understanding the code structure by giving you a walkthrough of their source code and explaining that what all different application sections or different module of the source code does. However, that is not a practical solution, and that is very tough to do unless and until you personally know that developer. So the second approach would be, of course, to set up that source code. fork that repository, set up that source code on your local machine, follow the documentation of that open source project, and go through it by step debugging. So you can put the breakpoint. So if I talk about an ASP.NET application or a Blazor application, what I will do is like I will download that application, I will put a breakpoint on startup.cs, and then I will go from there step by step and see that what all things are working, how the application is working, and how the different modules in that application is working. So basically, in order to understand the source code, first of all you need to know the programming language, and secondly you need to set up the application source code on your local machine and go through the source code step by step, and of course follow through the documentation. Most of the popular open source applications have documentation along with them about how to set up the source code and how to run the source code. If the documentation is not there, then it is very tough, and that is one of the reason that if any open source application is not very much popular in the developers, because there is no proper documentation available for that. So always I would suggest that always go for open source application which has proper documentation given, and then you can follow along the documentation and set up the application on your local machines. So I think these are the only two ways to understand the code structure of any site or application whose code is given on GitHub. Next question is asked by two different people, James Drake and Andrew Ray. They are asking, when is it the right time for a web developer to switch to other domains of application software development? Guys, let me tell you one thing very clearly, that web development is a skill, it's not a domain. Domains are primarily industry specifics. So most of the popular domains are like HR domain, healthcare domain, travel domain, you can say construction domain. So the domains are basically named on the basis of your industry, not on web development or desktop development. So web development and desktop developments are basically skills, not domains. Now, if I am assuming that you are talking about moving from one role to another role in a developer journey. So if you are a web developer and you feel that your career is stagnant your career is stagnant, it's not growing in your company, you are just stagnant, you are getting a specific task, just working on the task, getting your salary, and that's it. So in that scenario, I think it's time for you to move on. So move on from your comfort zone, learn a new skill, and then probably move to that skill. So probably if you want to go into the management side, then you need to learn about what a project manager does, what a team lead does, what are the responsibilities of different roles, that is project manager or team lead in your company, and then probably you should focus on learning those skills and move ahead in that particular thing. Or if you want to be on the technical side, then probably you should learn about other technologies if you want to diversify yourself, or if you want to structure your career in the form of a particular skill set. So probably you should focus on learning that skill set. So I think you will know when you are stagnant in your career, and then if you are stagnant in your career or if you are stagnant in your current role, probably you should focus on learning the skill for that next role. So as I said, that web development is a skill, not a domain. So if you are move from one skill set to another skill set, you will have to learn that other skill set, and the best time to do that is whenever you feel that you are stagnant in your current skill set. Next question is from Kirti Zare. She is asking, is there any framework for development in C# language other than Visual Studio? Kirti, let me clarify one thing. Visual Studio is not a framework. Visual Studio is an IDE or integrated development environment. Integrated development environments are those applications which are used to develop any kind of software application using a particular language, framework, or technology. So when we talk about C# language, C# language, we use .NET framework, because to compile and to run C# language, we need .NET framework. It can be either .NET Core, .NET 5, or .NET framework, the regular old .NET framework, which runs only on Windows. Now, to develop applications using C# and .NET, Visual Studio is not only IDE. There are many others IDEs which are available. So Visual Studio is of course the most popular one and has most number of features provided, and since it is developed by Microsoft, which is the main creator of C# language and .NET framework, or you can say that right now, since both of these are open source, so Microsoft is the main maintainer of C# language and .NET framework. So Visual Studio has good features for developing applications using C# and .NET. However, there are other IDEs also. The first one being Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is again from Microsoft, but Visual Studio Code is right now, I would say that it is #1 IDE used for most of the web development. So many web developers, be it React developers, be it Flutter developers, be it Python developers, many people are using Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is free IDE, completely free. There is no conditions apply in this free thing. It is completely free, cross-platform IDE. It is available on Windows as well as Mac as well as Linux, and it is an Electron-based application. You can develop, you can use C#, or you can develop or write C# and .NET-based application using Visual Studio Code also. But as I said that Visual Studio Code doesn't have enough features. As I said that Visual Studio has more features which help in doing .NET and C# development easier way. Visual Studio Code doesn't have that much features, and you need to learn some commands. You need to know about command line interface, or creating applications or running applications using CLIs or command line interface if you are using Visual Studio Code. The second IDE, which is again free for doing C# and .NET development, is called MonoDevelop. MonoDevelop is again a cross-platform IDE, but I don't know that whether it is available on Linux or not. It is more available on your Mac and Windows. And MonoDevelop is the one which was like later on rebranded or renamed as Xamarin Studio, when like Xamarin team was maintaining this MonoDevelop, and it was rebranded as Xamarin Studio, and later on it was rebranded as your Visual Studio for Mac. So but still MonoDevelop is still there because it's open source. So and it's open source and free, so you can use MonoDevelop to as an IDE to develop C# and .NET based applications. Now the third one is again one of the most popular IDE for developing C# and .NET based application, and that is called JetBrains Rider. So JetBrains Rider is of course an paid IDE. You need to pay for its license, but it is again second, I would say that it is the like second number IDE being used by .NET developers for developing C# and .NET based applications. But as it is paid, so it is not used by as many developers who are using Visual Studio. But like after Visual Studio, many people who are ready to pay for it, they use JetBrains Rider. JetBrains is a very like you can say very large you can say tools making company. They have IDEs or integrated development environments for other languages also. I think IntelliJ is there. I'm not sure about it, but I think they have IDEs for Python also. They have IDEs for Java also. So similarly, their IDE for .NET and C# development is called JetBrains Rider, and it is an licensed IDE. So of course it is an paid IDE. So these were the different IDEs which you can use to develop C# and .NET based application apart from using Visual Studio. So if you don't want to use Visual Studio, you can use from free solutions, that is either Visual Studio Code or MonoDevelop, or you can pay for licensed solution, that is JetBrains Rider. So these were my answers to your tech and career related queries in this episode of Techie Tuesdays. If you want your questions to be answered in next episode of Techie Tuesdays, you can DM me your questions with hashtag Techie Tuesdays on any social media platform. All my social media handles are Techie Rathor. I hope you like my answers, and if you like my answers, then please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends, family and colleagues. So until my next video, take care, bye bye.